Okay, I seem to be recording. My name is Michael Savaggio. I am the sole owner of Savage Game Designs, and this video is about a game that is brand new to you called Frontline. I will read you the description. Frontline is a two-player game, ages 12 and up, taking place in 4 rounds from September to December. Rounds have 6 supply turns, 3 per player. To win, have the most occupation points at the end of December, or, if you can, occupy the opponent's capital to immediately end the game and win it. Ties are possible. Now, I'm going to go over the basics. I'm going to use a last page of my rule book that I've created, which has all of the player's notes. And I think this is the best way to introduce you. First of all, you start by taking a group of supply chips, otherwise known as a stack of chips. If your city has been overrun by an opponent, you will only get 1 fallen city chip. So if those chips are available, you set them below your supply card, and that supply card is now usable for action. So that supply is now usable for action. So supply card is simply a information device that tells you what month you're in and what supply is available in that month. Okay, so now you can use those supply to produce actions. So there are 2 basic types of supply actions. One is regular actions, and then the other one is missions. Missions are tied specifically to the type of supply that's being used. There are 3 different types of supply: air, capital, and industrial supply. Okay? Those produce 3 different types of missions, which we'll go over later. Let's talk about the regular actions first, though. Amphibious movement is one, which if you have an active unit on one of the 2 ports that are on the board. Let me show you what a board looks like. This is from an earlier expression, so it's not quite the same. I'm sorry. It's not quite the same thing that you would get now because it's been improved. And the nice thing about the board is it has 2 sides. The new board has 2 sides. This is the no-go side, no-go in the water. Okay? So if you look at the port section right here, okay, if you have a unit there, then they could go to, let's say, here. Or if we flip this around, we could see there's more places to go. Not a lot, but they're there. And your opponent's port or other beach. Okay, so that's amphibious movement. It costs you 1 supply of any type. Attack. Again, costs you 1 supply of any type because all regular movements do. All regular actions do. Attack is quite simply all units, which are of 3 types. You have, where is that? Artillery, yay. Tanks, I hope you can see that. And infantry. And if we look at the back side, we'll see there's a big old X through it. Okay. Which has actually changed to a purple line for reasons. And so those 3 types of units are the ones that are in the game, and you can attack with them. Now, if we look at, let's say, the artillery, hopefully you can read that. I don't know if you can. Well, anyway, you don't have to. That's why I'm here. There's an R on all of these chits and units, and the R represents the range. So artillery has the greatest range, tanks have the second greatest, and then infantry has only a range of adjacency. So tanks can fire up to 2 spaces away, and artillery will fire up to 3 spaces away. And because of the scale of the game, using squares does not hurt the game because you can only basically move up to 2 away during a normal movement, which we'll get to. Commission is very cool. There are these things called leadership cards. And leadership cards allows you to perform tasks, which are not actions. You might say they're stored actions. And there's two sides. Oh, I'm sorry, that side, and let's say that side. And three of them, two of them can be used on any turn. One of them can only be used on your turn, and two others can be used only on your opponent's turn. So you can actually act out of order. We'll talk about that later. Then there is after attack. Commission allows you to reestablish the leadership card once it's exhausted because it's a one shot. So you use this, it's exhausted, you have to pay to get it back. At the end of your turn, that's when you get it. Then there's movement. All units move 2 spaces, except that tanks move diagonally as well as orthogonally, which is row and column. So they're a little bit more flexible when it comes to movement. And if you move through a desert, which, let's see, let me show you, is like these orange spaces, okay, then you can increase that unit's movement by 1, and that's that. So under the best possible circumstances, a unit can move 3. Then, if you're playing with multiple copies of the game, you can actually play an allies game, which allows you to send some of your supply or your units to a second board, which they're having their own little struggle, you're having yours, and you can basically send each other units and supply, and hopefully that will make the difference. Now, what are missions? Well, missions require the use of supply, just like regular actions, and essentially, air supply is the only one that can do paratrooping, which is the ability to move an active infantry. Only infantry can do that from your airbase to a location that is within 2 spaces of one of your friendly units or cities. Okay, so you can get a guy that basically doesn't get a chance to move very well. You can pop him over to the other side of the board if you got somebody already there. It's nice. Paratroop is good. Now, the next thing is capital supply, which is allows you to convert a disrupted unit, okay, that's got the X through it, to an active unit. Yay! Right side up as well. And, almost right side up. So, anyway, in the game, there's various results, and those results are on the back of the box. It doesn't look like this because this is an earlier version, and I've been improving the game over a number of months and so forth to make it ready for production. So, but it looks similar to that. Actually, it pretty much looks the same, except for the fact one cool thing about mine is that if you notice, there's text on the bottom. So if there's something you don't understand here, there are references as to where those rules are. Hopefully the issue in question is on that little list. Otherwise, you can look at the index in the game, in the rule book. Now, so capital supply reinstates units, and then there is industrial supply, which allows you to use units that do not start initially on your board. Okay, they start off on the side in a reserve, and you can acquire those by spending 2 or more industrial supplies, such as it costs you 2 to make an artillery or an infantry, and it costs 3 to make a tank. And people have questioned me about that. And the thing is, there's only 3 artillery in the game, and you start with 2. So, in truth, I basically, the way I see artillery is a big tube with a bullet, okay? Versus a tank, which is, I think, a complex machine, and infantry, which is a bunch of guys with rifles. So, I know it's more than that, but, that's how I'm thinking. So anyway, there's all that, and there is something important in the game, besides a different supply and so forth like that. there are height issues in the game because terrain matters. Okay, and you know what? Before we we'll talk about that. So, greatest height is the mountains. There's only a handful of mountains in the game. They're these little gray guys. Hopefully, you can see them. See these little. This artwork has changed. Again, it doesn't look like a bunch of sneakers. So that's the highest height. So if you're on that and somebody's in a lower position, then you have an advantage on them. If you're on a hill, which is the brown stuff, yeah, there you go. The brown stuff is all hills. That's higher. That's lower than the mountain, but it's higher than everything else. Okay, so if you're there, that's good for the attacker if the attacker's there. If the defender's there, that's bad for the attacker if they're lower. And then everything else is of the lowest height, which includes valleys, air bases, capitals, industries, deserts, ports, and beaches. Okay, that's 7 different terrain. Are lower than the 2 previous hill and mountains. Now, again, if you're attacking and you're higher than the target, you will have an advantage. And if you look at the combat table, you'll see there's a yellow column, and there's 3 range columns: range 1, 2, and 3. And so when you attack somebody, you determine the range, and you determine whether or not you have advantage or disadvantage, and then you roll the dice. So if you have advantage, you're going to be rolling a yellow dice and a white die. So what happens is, if the result comes out that there's this yellow advantage die symbol, okay, that would normally be a miss for anybody else. But for a person who's attacking with advantage, that moves you over to the column of advantage, which gives you another 66% chance of doing something meaningful. Otherwise, it's a miss. So if you're attacking with infantry and with tanks uphill or up a mountain, okay, then you attack at disadvantage and increase your range by 1. So if you're adjacent, it's like you're 2 away. If you're 2 away, it's like you're 3 away. Now, getting to the particulars of the different units, okay, artillery's bonus and uniqueness is that when it attacks, it can never be affected by disadvantage. So if it's attacking a mountain and it's in a valley, it don't care. It'll lob those shots right in there. Okay, what's a tank's bonus ability? A tank's bonus ability, besides the fact that it can move diagonally, when it attacks with advantage, it can look at the 2 dice and it can pick the die that it likes, which sometimes matters. Well, a lot of times it matters. Okay, and then this little guy, the infantry, which you have the most of, on a hill or a mountain, it gets a defensive bonus, which means if you roll a 4 in those particular cases, it doesn't get hit, which is nice. It's a great thing to put a guy in a vulnerable spot because you've increased his chances of not being hit. So there's that. That's pretty much... there's a lot more to the game, but to be honest with you, if this stuff doesn't interest you, then you're probably not interested in the game. I have been working on it for a number of years. It has many playtests. I find it to be enjoyable, regardless of the board, regardless of the player. It's very interesting. There's various different types of supply cards. These, unfortunately, are no longer used, but, well, not unfortunately. I came up with a better system of counting the supply. So the thing is that there are 9 different supply cards, and then there's 6 cards, but it offers you quite an option So what I'm trying to get at is there's a lot of different ways of playing this. You have multiple battlefields, and then you also have multiple supply options, which will change your tactics. So, is there anything else I need to tell you? I'd say this is a game for 12 and older. It's a two-player only game unless you use the Allies game, which is by combining two units. Two copies of the game, editions, and you're playing. You have four players or three players, and you're playing two countries against two countries, and you're throwing supply back and forth to your ally and units to their board using amphibious movement. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually is radically. It really messes with the timing of the game, and it's a lot of fun. So there you go. I think that's good enough. I try to make the game as affordable as possible without being cheap. So I think that this is not the box that you will be getting. You get a smaller box, but it has a two-sided board in it, and just made it a lot more affordable for the consumer without taking away any playability, because right now everybody's on a budget. So, all you need to do to this game is add two generals and stir. This is Michael Savaggio from Savage Game Designs, and I really care about this game, and I put a lot of work into it. So I hope you enjoy it, and if you do so, the information, my contact information, is in the box. So there you go. You can ask me any questions you want. But please let me know how much you enjoy the game, because I think you will. Bye-bye.